Hi there, I'm Cindy Davis, Content Director for AV Technology, and with me are Tim Deasy, Senior Sales Engineer, and Nick Wilson, Industry Development Director for Sports and DOOH from Absen. That was a mouthful, DOOH. We're here to discuss the role of video walls in esports and sporting in general, sporting venues. So thanks for joining me.
Happy to be part of the show.
So we're going to start off with esports. It's been a hot topic over the past several years and really coming into its own. So, how are video walls being used in esports today?
I think it's very similar to how sports are in general right now. The overall impact of them is the player experience, the individuals that are coming. When you show up to a stadium, you got to think we are nerds at the end of the day. We want the latest, the greatest, the best of things. And at home, we've spent, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on just the computer, the setup, and so on and so forth. So to get us to come out to these events, it's got to be something really grand, something, that looks great. And when you put LED up there and you have the ability to make it like, the Las Vegas sphere that we have out there, or put them in cube fashions, or, completely surround the arena in it and have the players up there, really energizes everybody to come in, be a part of that team, really feel like they're a part of something. And every time somebody makes, a great play on TV, somebody gets a kill or does this, it invigorates them. So it adds to that experience. And Nick, I think there's a little bit more. I'm sorry, Cindy. I don't know if you wanted to visit the sports side.
You explained it very well. It's really how the people and the fans, when they come into an esports arena or a stadium or any arena, how can we consume that digital display, right? Is it like I see my favorite player, favorite team on the display? How can we get ROI on that? Like sponsorships. I know we talked before, Tim, on how you have players that walk out and they have a sponsorship on their name or on their shirt and a hat or whatever it is, or even just a mouse pad, right? Esports is a sport, right? I consider it a sport. It's almost like everyone keeps separating them, but it's exactly everything that sports can do, esports does, and it's a whole another business, and it's billions of dollars. Esports stadiums are popping up all over the place.
I think that's a really good point, Nick, because it's really comes down to fan engagement, right? And how do you bring those? How do you really get the fans engaged? And even honestly, when I am watching sports on TV and I see these massive video walls, and you can see, the camera will come in on somebody in the audience, and it gets exciting.
Yeah, yeah. They want to see the stats, the replays. There's interaction, like features where if you're at the venue, there might be like a QR code. You can put your phone up and do surveys, or I've seen some like selfie takeovers where I can hold my phone out and the camera feed from that will actually go to the display. There's a lot to engage the fans, and what happens when you do that, they want to come back, and it combines with like the brand identity, the venue itself. It's not only just about the team, it's about, hey, I want to go back to that venue because it's really cool. Because some of these venues are not just for one team. It could have a professional sports team and then esports later in the night. So how do people want to come back from the experience? And it's those memorable experiences that our displays produce, and that's why we're talking to you. We want to really engage these fans and just have a nice experience.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about the different engagement strategies, because I mean you're out there working with the different esports or sports teams and in the venues. What are some of the engagement because they might be similar or different. I'm not sure. What Tell me about some of the engagement strategies that are being used.
Tim, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, from the esports side of it, it's fairly simplistic. There's a lot of relationships that are already built here within those specific venues. I mean, LED as a whole is kind of its own little niche, if you will. There's Everybody knows everybody in this industry that's in it. So, I mean, when it comes to, hey, somebody's got a project for this that needs to be done, a lot of people generally know about it. And it's, who's got the best fitting product, who's going to be able to offer, the best price for it and be able to get it done the way the client wants it to be done. So, I think there's, not too much engagement on the side of the sales of it, but once it comes to the actual engagement of the audience, it's superb. I mean, you've got something that you're walking into, and when you even just walk into a regular sports stadium, which I'm sure Nick will talk about, you've got the jumbotrons up there, on four sides, NBA game, NFL game, NHL, doesn't matter, they all have them. So do esports as well. You walk in, it's got that exact same thing, and you've got the replays, you've got everything to go up there to really hype up the fans that are not only there, but from the esports perspective, you also have all the fans that are online watching from streaming platforms, which are millions of times more than the fans that are actually physically present at these venues. So to be at the venue, you really got to make something super, super engaging for them to want to spend, that kind of money to go.
Spot on, Tim. Spot on.
Thanks.
It's. I mean, it's what you're saying is exactly the same for sports, the sports industry, in general. All the large stadiums, right? You want that wow factor, and how do you do that? It's usually LED video screens. Now, there's several different things, like that make it different. Where you have curves and angles and different types of laying out the display, right? So how can you be different? How can your venue be different than the other guy, right? How can we drive more people in that venue because they just want to be entertained? That's what it's for, is entertainment, and they want to belong. They want to belong, like feel that belonging to the team or the sport, the individual that I know there's fans of individuals for esports, like a actual gamer. They're fans of the gamer, right? So there's people that go there just because that guy is playing. So it's it's similar. Sports esports is, in my book, it's the same thing, and displays bring people to the venue, um, and that wow factor keeps fans coming back.
So let's dig into that a little bit further then, because you mentioned curved screens. So when it comes to choosing LED technologies, whether it's for esports or sports, what technology considerations come into play, and how do you really inspire the folks that are designing these spaces? How do you inspire them to think a little bit out of the box?
Yeah, I would say from an esports perspective, and it might be just a little bit different, in the sports sector. Obviously, Nick will be able to handle that one, but the main consideration here is durability. You've got, fans that are there, and I think that's pretty similar in sports, but these are indoor screens, so they're generally not, most of the time, meant to be thrown things at. But when it comes to the newest technology, like the COB technology, it's just kind of what we call the latest LED technology. It allows for things like that. So, if somebody throws a tennis ball against it or something, it's going to bounce off of it. It's not going to break like it normally would. And I think a lot of the considerations for that come into cameras as well. You have cameras that are being pointed at these screens to be able to see these live audiences, or for the live audiences to see online. You know what I mean? So the ability to shoot something with a camera requires an upgrade in technology from the norm. I would say you typically have, an LED or something like that. But if you shoot it without a technology that supports it, it's not going to work. You're going to see a bunch of lines all over the screen. You're going to see a bunch of colors being distorted. It's going to be a mess at the end of the day. So I think that's a really huge consideration when it comes to specifically esports. And because the audience is mostly online, I think that's a big one to consider there. But other than that, I think a lot of the things kind of transfer over to sports, which Nick, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think you brought up COB, and what I'm saying is with the high traffic areas, so like throughout like concourses and things, you can have COB, on the walls, and people love to touch things, right? So these have these, you're able to, people hit them, or backpacks hit it, or whatever it is. Those bumps and bruises from high traffic areas, the COB is like perfect for that, because if you have exposed LEDs, it's more apt to damage, because you have people hitting it, hopefully not throwing too much stuff at it, but a tennis ball, yeah, great. I hit it with a tennis ball all day, but I'm sure you can hit it with something a little harder than that. But I think, to your point, having this technology, and that the COB is very important, for at least for a lot of those high traffic areas throughout concourses and things, in the stadiums and arenas. And you brought up refresh rate. I never really thought about everyone that's viewing it online. It's the refresh rate, seeing the refresh on TV or online, if you don't have the right technology, is not good. So yeah, so he was spot on there.
So, for anybody who's not familiar with it, please explain what COB technology is.
Yeah, so COB just stands for chip on board. You have a multitude of different types of technologies, including SMD, which stands for surface mounted device. You have IMD, which is integrated mounted device. And then generally you have COB, which is chip on board. There are a few others within there, but the line of hierarchy generally goes SMD, IMD, or COB. And it's just the way that the physical chip is mounted on the LED board itself. So depending on if you want it as just regular service mounted, which comes the standard, that's usually one that's a little inferior to the others. It tends to have less durability over the course of its lifespan, but it's a little bit cheaper because of that. So if you want a little bit of a cheaper product, that's the best way to go. IMD was kind of the jump from that in SMD, and then eventually we landed to COB, which is just the regular chip on the board. It's got kind of an epoxy over the top of it to make sure that it's very durable. And yeah, that's
So, okay, well, while we're on different technologies, we're talking about sporting venues, esports venues, and esports. What are the different technologies from Absen that would go into those venues?
I think it's very different between esports and sports. On this question in particular, when it comes to esports, we typically see the KLCOB, which is one of our products that has the COB technology. I would say another good product would be our PL series, which stands for Polaris. And then one more might be our MR series, which is our Mars series. Each one has a different application throughout it. The KLCOB, like Nick had mentioned, is great for hallways or something where people are coming in to display content, because then you can still kind of tap it and see it, and it looks really great. It also works really well for those curves that you have in the stadiums. That's a great place for it as well. Whereas you have the PL, which is really designed to be taken down and put up consistently. So it makes it really easy to tile together. If you just want to create any size screen right off the bat, you can do that and then move it at some later date for another event doing something else. So, maybe some side curtains that just have little individual replays across it that are very small, like just a column of it, maybe. And you can place those all around the arena, or you can create a ribbon with it. There's a lot of versatility in that series because it's meant to be taken down and put up constantly. And then the MR series is a series designed to be a floor solution. So you can walk directly on it. I think it's something like 2,000 pounds per square meter is able to go on it. So you can literally roll a car across the top of these. And that's really great, especially for the players. When they walk in, they can see their names on the ground and walk over top of their face and see what they're playing. I mean, it just, it really excites them and allows them to perform at their best. So I think between those three series, you pretty much have esports covered. But Nick, do you want to talk about the sports? Because I know that one's different.
Yeah, I'd love to. I think one of the big changes in the sports industry, I think in the future, is going to be the flooring displays. Like, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. It's hot, right? How can we use it throughout, throughout the buildings and throughout the stadiums, right? So I think that's a hot item. For I'm gonna move to like an outdoor kind of type stadium, because an arena that Tim's talking about, it's using very similar displays, right? Versus esports versus just regular sports. So for outdoor, we have our new A series and AW series, which obviously when you're outside, you battle way different things than inside. So you have to battle sunlight, just overall weather conditions. Depending on where you are, you have snow, sleet, rain, humidity, and even salt conditions. And if you don't have the right technology inside your displays, uh, they will get eaten up by the environment. And you want to pay the price now than later when you may cry when salt or water or whatever it is gets in there. It can be a problem. So most of the time for stadium displays, we're battling the brightness. So it's got to be high brightness because we're battling the sun. So when I look at the display, it has to be bright enough so it's not washed out from the sun. So our A series and our AW series is perfect solutions for those situations, and it's very important to consider all that when you're building out a digital solution for stadiums. So brightness, weather, where you're located, it really all matters, and our products, we have the solution for every situation.
Nice. All right. So video wall technologies have definitely come down, but it's still an investment, right? So, what do you say? And I would imagine esports might be the hardest sell. Not sure, but other stadiums as well. What are some of the return on investment, in positive impacts that you have seen other your clients have?
Yeah, I mean, in esports, I wouldn't say it's more difficult, but there's less of a fan base that's located directly in front of those LEDs. So it's the focus is shifted a little bit from not necessarily the fan, but to branding and awareness and sponsorship, and how do we display that best, and how do we get still those players on some type of stage, on some type of venue, to be able to be seen, when this is something realistically that they can sit in their home like we are doing, and being able to hop on and do those things. So what are those things that work? And that's just it. It's branding, advertisement, sponsorship. And when you've got these players that are there, you want to ensure that they do their best. So not only is it about the fans, but it's about the players as well. And when they see these big, huge screens with their name plastered all over it, and some of these guys, you got to think, are 17 years old. When you were 17 years old, if you walked into a stadium and had your name plastered all over, everything, and you have fans cheering for you, what is that going to do? It's going to inspire you to do your best, and that's just going to inspire the fans, which it's just a rolling chain from there. So it's a little bit of a focus shift when it comes to esports, but I think it's still got a lot of the groundwork that was laid by sports, which I think Nick will talk about.
Yeah, I think just having displays, in the stadium, it's a big investment. but you also can sell the sponsorships. You can package those up. You can have takeovers, right? Where the entire stadium is taken over by a certain brand, or, by, whatever company, dishes out the money, to the stadium. So, ideally, what needs to happen is, how can you engage that eyeball on these displays from the time that they are parking the car. You got billboards and things, flagpole displays. You start walking through the stadium, like through the concourse, and you see these advertisements. You see your favorite player. How can you how can the user see that connection as they walk through the stadium? That's the most important ROI in my book. Like, being able to hit that eyeball several times, and then once they sit down in their seat, they got their popcorn and drink or whatever it is, and they, who knows, you could have a QR code on the drink and go up on the scoreboard, or the ribbons. You can really engage the fans with brands using our screens. So it's the whole experience, but how do you sell that experience to the fan and have them come back? So it's a memorable experience, and strategically, you're selling tickets, you're selling sweaters and hats and gloves or whatever it is in the stadium, and using the displays, you're able to talk about that, or talk about a brand. So I would say you're not going to have a stadium without video screens at this point in time.
Absolutely. So let's wind up with, love to hear some exciting trends that trends that you're excited about coming up. And Tim, let's start with you, and Nick, follow up with that.
Nick, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. One of the trends that I see is, it's just everything is bigger, better, flashier. What can we do different? And with our systems, we have so many displays that can do the curves, do the right angles, do shapes and sizes, that we love projects that are different. And I think that's where I think the future is how can, when someone has a new stadium or wants to design something new, they want that wow factor, and what can they do better? Hopefully spend more with Absen and get the best solution for what they want. So I think bigger, better, and obviously, like I pointed out, maybe the floor solution, I think is very unique in the sports industry, not just esports, but there's unique features there that maybe haven't been thought about. How can we use it in concourses, right? Like everyone's looking down, at least I do, when I'm walking around like airports and concourses. I'm usually on my phone or looking down. I'm not really heads up. The floor might be a pretty good sponsorship idea somehow.
That's a
I don't
great
know.
idea.
But check it out. Do some research.
Definitely.
Looking down. So I'll pass that off to Tim now. What about the technologies.
Yeah, I mean, you're very right. The floor is a big one for us, and being on a screen, a live broadcast that millions, hundreds of millions of people are going to end up watching. Specifically, it boils down to what's going to look great on that camera. So you really want to have something that's almost like a VR studio setup, in that you have a floor, you have a backdrop, you have a ceiling as well. And as we were talking about earlier, those three series, the KLCOB, the PL, and the MR series, they can do that. All three of them. You have the PL that'll hang above, the MR that's the floor, and the KLCOB that can go up against it. And you can create some pretty wild looking things. I mean, what was that? The Star Wars show that was just recent, The Mandalorian. They filmed that in a virtual studio, so, and you can do that in an esports scenario, which would be really cool as well. And the players just sit right in that little block that is those three. I mean, and it creates a wonder of things that you can do online to really showcase their talents and create videos and memories out of it for people to come back, and highlights specifically. Everybody loves to watch highlights. I mean, not everybody goes to the game, but everybody's going to watch the highlights, guaranteed.
Definitely a lot of fun now, that's for sure.
Yes.
So, all right, before we wrap up, how does someone get in touch with Absen?
Very easy. usabsen.com. You can reach out to anybody on our contact. Just go to our contact page. We have a form there that you could submit. It'll go directly to whatever region you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in North America, if you're in Europe, some other region, you can contact there as well. Just make sure it's the US Absen, absen.com. The regular absen.com goes to our headquarters, which is a different country from us. So
just call Tim direct. Call Tim direct.
Yeah, you can just give me a shout. That's fine. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Find me on the website. I'm happy to help you.
Great. Well, Tim and Nick, this has been a really great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Cindy.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate the time.